Hello, everyone. Welcome to Satsang on this beautiful Sunday. Just noon here in Seattle, but an hour earlier for you folks out in Europe for 2 weeks, and then you're going to set your clocks forward, and then it'll be back to the way it was. But I get so confused every year. I mean, it's fortunate that our phones and the like all change the times automatically. I do remember long before the internet and smartphones and the like, how many times I showed up someplace an hour early or an hour late because I had neglected to do that. So, hello everyone. Welcome to Satsang, and the ultimate question, which is, who am I? Who am I really? Not who do I think I am, not who was I educated to be, not who would I like to be if I only could fill in the blank, but who you are. This quest to know who we truly are isn't often undertaken. It's rarely, even less often, undertaken correctly. The first reason it's not undertaken often is because we're very afraid that if we find out who we actually are, we're not going to like ourselves. I mean, the whole conditioning that took place a long time ago when we were young was that kind of a disconnect. Because when you're young, being yourself, and yourself is not acceptable to the tribe, and for all of us that was the case, some more so than others. Some of us were more unacceptable than others. I myself fell into that category. That there's this disconnect from our souls. There's this underlying feeling that there's something very wrong with me, and I have to compensate it. And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to compensate it and creating a whole different version of myself. And these days, in the perpetual treadmill of self-improvement, which never, which never ever quite culminates. There's always something else that needs improving, right? Some other prerequisite that needs to be filled. When I used to own a home, and you'd have to, something in the house would need to be repaired, and you'd take it apart, and you find out you can't repair that until you repair this, and then you can't repair this until you repair that, and 4 or 5 trips to the hardware store or Home Depot later, and you may actually have made some progress. This is kind of the way it works. It's infinite prerequisites. Because that which we're trying to improve isn't really you. What you're really trying to do is build a better facade, a better compensating vehicle, right? Because the underlying belief is that whatever it is I am, it's not acceptable. There comes a point in everybody's life when there's just the disappointments, the disillusionment, the frustration, the suffering becomes intense enough that something inside of us opens and begins to ask, well, who am I really? And there's a threshold that gets passed where it's like, even if I discover that I'm the biggest jerk in the world, that I really am useless, at least I can stop this endless charade, this endless pretending, this endless compensating, all the time and money and energy I've put into self-improvement. I can do something else. And something warrants us to be willing to make that journey. And of those where that actually happens, a lot of people just get disillusioned, saying, "Yeah, screw it." They become just completely self-indulgent or hedonist or give up or just settle. But some are fortunate enough to run into someone who can show them how to inquire into who they are in such a way that it gets results, that it actually begins to reconnect you. Somebody can tell you that, who you really are is magnificent beyond what you can possibly imagine. We have to discover that for ourselves, because even though you might be able to get it here, your body is still in that state of trying to protect and hide and keep you from being exposed. So it becomes quite an inward journey of really winning back throughout all of your whole system, your energy system, your past, and everything, getting back to what I refer to as the original innocence, that original you, prior to any conditioning ever having happened. And to do that requires being able to come to the place where that question, who am I, can be asked without the mind jumping in to attempt to answer. To get beyond all of the knowledge of ourselves that we've accumulated, all the beliefs about ourselves, all the assumptions about ourselves, all the extra knowledge we gained, that we've all gained psychological knowledge, and we all have some emotional intelligence now, and we're all, familiar with mantras and meditation and various kinds of energy healing techniques, and many of us can even talk the language of non-duality and Advaita, right? All of that has to be put aside, because if that was enough, there'd be a bunch of Buddhas walking around, and there isn't. So obviously there's more there's more to it than that. It's a completely different kind of approach of just allowing yourself to be brought to the place where you can see that you're not your thoughts, because I can watch them come and go, and I'm watching them come and go, coming and going. I can't be a thought, because if I was, then when the thoughts left, I'd be gone too. But I'm not. I'm still here. So I'm not my thinking. Whatever thought I have about myself it's not going to be the whole truth. It may not be any truth at all, but for certain, it's not what I actually am. And the same would hold true for our emotions, which are experienced. I can't be that. Our sensations, they are experienced, they come and go. I don't. I must be something else. And just being willing to be with that, having ruled out everything you're not, to just be present with the fact that you still are, and you don't know what you are. You can feel very naturally that there is the question silently being asked, who am I? It doesn't even have to be repeated in the mind at that point. It's there, silently. Well, I'm not any of those things, and yet I am here. Can you just feel that the question's just there? And of course, the answer to that question can't come as a thought. It can't come as a feeling or some kind of peak experience. It can't come as any kind of a sensation, because that would be more of what you're not. So something much deeper, much significant, more significant, much and easily recognized, as easy to recognize as your own face when you see it in a mirror. This is what satsang is for. That's why we are here. That's the only reason we're here. It's the only reason I'm here. It's the only reason I'm on this earth and still on this earth, is because, as far as I'm concerned, it's the only question that matters. And ultimately, the answer to that question is you. the real you. So, welcome once again, everyone, to Satsang. Let me say hello to everybody. Roberto, hi from Madrid. Hi to you, Roberto. Penny, hello, Sifu and everyone. Hello, Penny. Rosario, also in Madrid. Lisa Marie, hello, Lisa Marie. Sending you love, GP. Same to you. Sue in South Africa. Beautiful being. Hello, beautiful beings. Love Satsang with you, GB. Oh, I'm so glad you're here. Thanks so much for sharing truth with us. Ava, namaste. Thanks for the info concerning time change in the US. So caring for us you are. Without that, of course, I would have been here an hour later. Were it not for the automatic changing of the smartphones, I may have showed up an hour late. So we're all in this boat. Hello to my whole Satsang family. Roberto says, I feel a huge sense of lost opportunities, watching life like a movie but never able to take part. Brings sadness. Am I not entitled to enjoy the contents of life for some reason? It is absolutely impossible to get through life without encountering that sense of lost opportunity. We have to realize one of the things that spurs us into the depth of the inquiry that I'm inviting you into here is the realization of irrecoverable losses, coming to see what ignorance of my true being has actually cost me. Opportunities for personal successes, right? Accomplishments, creative endeavors, creative expression, deeper intimacy with others, both romantically and friendships and in business. The conditioned mind, the egoic mind, has cost us dearly. It has cost us the genuine, full experience of life. It's not that you're not entitled to it, or that anybody else isn't entitled to it. Of course you're entitled to it. What stands in the way? The ego with its fears and its desires. It's that simple. Right? To come to terms with, starting with allowing yourself to feel whatever you happen to be feeling. And so, yes, there's a recognition that the state I got myself into, and the state I was actually installed into me. Remember, nobody starts out messed up. You know, we're taught to be messed up. And eventually we understand viscerally the consequences of it. Understanding that spurs us in the right direction to come out of that and to begin to enjoy the content. But as long as you're sitting here wanting the content to be different so that you can enjoy it, you're screwed. That's the ego. The ego says, I can't enjoy my life right now. Why can't you enjoy it right now? Because it needs to be that. This isn't acceptable. That is. As long as this is unacceptable, you won't be able to enjoy your life. We only live now. We do not live then. It's that simple. As long as I am comparing right now to some other time that would be better, I will not enjoy the content of my life. It is right now or it is never. So of course you're entitled to enjoy the content. What's keeping you from enjoying the content? You don't like the content. You want different content. Love your life. Learn to love your life as it is. Learn to be happy in this moment. Find the way to do that, however you do it. Then you'll see that of course you're entitled to it, and it has only been you that has stopped you from doing that. And the thing that has stopped you is wanting this moment to be different than it is. Oh, it is so simple. Let yourself simply surrender to this moment. Let go of any idea it should be any different than it is. and you will find yourself immediately in the place of happiness. I love you, Roberto. Anja, lots of love from Germany. Lots of love to Germany, and to Anja. Oh, look at all the wonderful people here. Yay. Crispin, hey GP. Hello to everyone from cold again, middle of Europe in Lucerne, Switzerland. Hi, Crispin. David and Elaine, Southeast England, glad to have you. Oh, I'm so glad everybody got my memo, got the memo on the time change. Because I know you guys in Europe would have forgotten, because you don't change for another 2 weeks. And I guess I read recently that this may be the last year you guys do daylight savings time. That's very cool. That's fantastic. Lisa, happy, hello Lisa on the Atlantic seaboard. Jay, hello Jay. John Watson in Scotland. Play on, hello Play on. Hello G, nice to see you back online. What daily practice do you do besides meditation? What kind of daily basis practices do you recommend everyone to do? Thank you. Guess you guys haven't seen me with the tea yet. It's been almost 15 minutes and I'm finally taking a sip of my tea. I'm sure you weren't sure if it was actually me. I don't have what I would call a regular daily practice myself. Well, I mean, first thing in the morning, I'm just very quiet with myself. I'm just being in the present moment. I'm watching thoughts come and go. I'm aware of myself. That is, I am aware of that ineffable sense of being that can't be defined. If something comes up that needs my attention, it gets it. Sometimes things will come up that require my, what you might call a prayer. They get it. So I'm just kind of responding to the moment. Of late, I've been listening to the Ribhu Gita that I've recently become aware of, which was highly recommended by Ramana Maharshi, and I was unfamiliar with it. So I've listened to it. I have it in a Kindle, and I also have a recording of it. That's been really nice. I listen to that when I'm in the gym. So I always I'll bring something into the gym to listen because I can't stand the music they play in gyms. I'll bring anything. You listen to ocean waves to just block out the repetitive, banal, and vacuous music that you hear in places like that. What daily practices I recommend to people, it depends on where they are in their spiritual development. Meditation, of course, but meditation needs to be done correctly. It needs to be a meditation that doesn't have an intention or any kind of goal associated with it. The only intention or goal one can have is to know themselves as they actually are. To not try to get to some state, to not try to acquire anything or attain anything. It is the act of simple seeing, of looking. There's discrimination there, because the inquiry is meditative. Is this actually me? And this bringing of the attention back to the self that you can't articulate, you can't put it into the form of a thought or an experience or a feeling, is the highest meditation you can do. In harmony with that is a practice I teach, just called the yoga of allowing, which helps train yourself to the point where there is a beautiful detachment from thought, emotion, and sensation. A sense they really are not me. And in that space, that question of who am I then can really be asked in earnest. For some people, I can recommend an EFT practice, because for some people there's a lot of emotional charge, emotional energy, very hard for them to sit still. So walking meditations, yoga, qigong, tai chi, things like that that can help ground it physically in the body. It really depends on the person and where they're at. For some, it is just the pure inquiry. Um, the deep asking of the question, who am I? Am I what I am perceiving? Can the perceiver be perceived? But I'm always reluctant to kind of give a blanket everybody should do this, because everybody's at different places. Everybody has different needs. Everybody's had different levels of trauma and therefore, soul disconnect in their lives. Some people are terrified to sit with their feelings for even a second. So you have to bring them very slowly to the place where they can, and maybe even do it with them. I have a lot of guided meditations that I do for that very reason. Yeah, that's the most I can really say about it. All of those things are available, in the absence of a teacher to actually guide you into what would be the appropriate practice for you in this moment. In which case I have to get to know you enough. So come to the retreat so I can get to know you better, and I can make better recommendations about that sort of thing. Without that, there's so much information available. If you find something that seems to resonate with you, then do it for a while, at least a couple of weeks or a month, and do it pretty much exclusively. One of the things the mind loves to do is get a practice and then go shopping for other practices. And we live, in a world of, it's basically a smorgasbord of spiritual places. It's a spiritual marketplace. So if something resonates you, a particular kind of meditation or a particular practice, or even a mantra, chanting, and it seems to just kind of feel right for you, do it and then stop shopping. Right? You got your shoes, you don't need another pair of shoes. You just bought your car, you don't need another car for a while. Just stay with it for a while. Because the mind, especially these days, in order to keep you from actually focusing your attention long enough to begin to transcend the mind, will keep you looking from one thing to another. Because it's always looking for instant gratification. It's always looking for the next cool, shiny object. So that would be my recommendation. What is it you're doing? And then really do it devotedly, and don't go shopping for, go steady with it. Don't be eyeing, the next babe that walks by, right? Just, I only have eyes for you for a bit. And then after a while, see if it's plateaued, see if it's continuing to deepen. But become sensitive to, is the mind just getting bored and wanting something else? Because if it is, you may be on the verge of a breakthrough. And that shift in the energy that precedes a breakthrough, the mind begins to detect, and it doesn't like it. It wants to move away from it. So I think that's the best advice I can give you on that right this instant. Play on. Hello, Sarah. How are you? Missed you in the class the last couple of times. Anuja, namaste, GP. Namaste to you. Hello, Alessandra, Rabi in Romania. Good to see you. Merkgoff in... Hi, good evening from Sweden. Hello. I think you're new, aren't you? Crispin says, how does physical healing occur? And is it even possible to deliberately heal oneself from a specific ailment? Oh, yes, of course it is. Yogis have been doing it for 1,000 years. They've been doing it in the New Thought churches since they began, 120 years ago or so. The Course of Miracles talks about it. In the three New Thought churches, Unity, Science of Mind, which is now Center for Spiritual Living and Christian Science, they practice it regularly. They're practitioners that do spiritual healing of physical illnesses, and it works. I've practiced it myself. It does work. And they have all sorts of different ways of doing it and techniques for approaching it and the like. So, yes, it's possible. And I used to practice it, and I was good at it. I had people coming to me, and I brought about healings and that sort of thing. But one of the things that I learned that I realized needed to be cautioned against is that there, like everything else, it's kind of like the law of attraction, right? I get so focused on the thing, the result I'm trying to get, that my attention gets less and less, more and more divorced from me, further and further away from me, and it ceases being a spiritual inquiry, and it's turned into just a healing modality. So even when I'm seeking a very positive result, like a physical healing, it's got to be secondary to my own spiritual growth. It's got to come as a result of the insight into myself and my true nature. And the reality in those churches, it's the reality of the allness of God. And in the presence of the allness of God, where can illness possibly be? It can't exist in the realm of God, which means it's a formation of the mind believed in. And the real key then is to believing the perceived truth in your heart in the face of what appears to be the physical evidence. Turns out it's not physical at all. It's all a mental formation. But the cure is not in seeking this to be shifted or changed, but to find the underlying belief structure that has disconnected from the soul or disconnected from God, feels separate from God, and therefore feels subject to fear and disease and all of these kinds of things. So how does it occur? The belief in illness, the belief in being a physical material being, is finally eradicated, and with that goes all sickness, all sin, all death. Because it's not a physical condition that then the mind acts on somehow. You find that the physical condition is completely, actually, a mental state, and that there is no physical condition, there is no physical world. I know that's a mouthful. I mean, if that shoop went right by, it's okay. It's not that big a deal. But anyway, that's how it works. The true masters of it understand it on that level. So I hope that answers it for you, Crispin. I know it was a quick answer, but Amy Gant, so good to see you. So good to see you. Hello to you. Robert in Romania. Robert Dosa, good to see you, Robert. Amy's glad to be here. I'm glad you're here. It's so good. We haven't talked in ages. There's Red Rose for you. Sonia, hello, Sonia. Mary Sykes. I think I'm on time. Yep, you are. Murkoff, yeah. No time change here yet. Nice setup you got there. I'd like to hear your thoughts on the sense of self. It must be made of some perception if you can feel it, right? So what's the deal? I like that. So what is the deal? Come on, what's up? What's up with that? Yes, it is made of a perception. It's a very subtle thing, and you're clearly someone. This is not your first rodeo. You are familiar with this kind of approach, and I've obviously done some of the inquiry. So when you go take the meditation and the inquiry far enough, and you come to see thoughts, sensation, and emotion, this are the sum total of experience. They're basically different, just really different kinds of vibrations of the same essential substance. So in essence, there's no difference between a sensation and emotion and a thought any more than there's really no difference between the note C, you know, two octaves below middle C, and and a high E flat. The essence of them is exactly the same. They're just a different frequency of the same essential substance. That is, in fact, the case with all experience. So then you come to a place of recognizing where you're aware of being aware. You're aware of the fact that these things are appearing to you, they're coming and going, and you are not. They are all made of perception. They're all made of exactly the same thing. That which is vibrating is not the air, it is perception. It is consciousness that is vibrating in its dynamic aspect that produces what we mistakenly call thought, emotion, and sensation. It is, in fact, consciousness and consciousness alone. It doesn't exist outside of consciousness. The perceiving of it is the existence of it. It has no independent existence. To grasp that, and if you've followed me so far, that's good. If you haven't, don't worry about it. I'll be back. I'll be back to get the rest of you. Now you're aware of being aware of all of that. And you're at really the last threshold. The only thing left is just there's this sense of your own being. There's a sense I am. This is the I am prior to any manifestation. But you're absolutely right. It, too, is perceived. It is the subtlest of all perceptions, the sense I am. Now, being aware that you are perceiving that, you become aware of awareness itself. But that awareness is not a perception. I mean, it's not an infinite regression. The buck has to stop somewhere. And this is where it stops. You cannot perceive what is beyond here because it's not a perception. You can't perceive it, you can't know it, you can't experience it because you are it. That all knowledge falls away. And the true knowledge, the jnana knowledge, or the prajna wisdom, emerges simply as the I am prior even to the sense of I am. This is what Nisargadatta referred to as the absolute. The absolute doesn't even know its own existence. It just is. There's no knowing at all. The moment it starts to know its own existence, it creates a universe. Consciousness, the sense I am. And that sense of I am manifests absolutely everything else. This is the subtlest of the subtle. When you get to this point, you have passed the threshold of all effort, of all practice, of all techniques. Everything culminates in this simple awareness of being aware that is not perceivable. Muji gets you there by simply asking, can the perceiver be perceived? Whatever is being perceived can't be me, because I'm the one perceiving it. Can the perceiver be perceived? Now, the answer is obviously no, but it's got to sink in. Well, then how do I know that I am? If I'm not perceiving myself, how do I know that I am? And in that place, the Sat Chit Ananda can emerge. The being and the knowing are one. That knowingness is being. They're not two. You can't have one without the other. They're not two at all. Being, consciousness, and bliss all just merge into me, myself. Myself without even the thought myself. pure, self-aware, undifferentiated consciousness? Beautiful question, Merck. Beautiful. So, I believe that's the deal. Mary Quickabom, I cannot pronounce your last name. Mary, forgive me. Mary will have to do in the Netherlands. Barbara, hi Barbara, also in Sweden. Dale, good afternoon here from Massachusetts. Spring in the air this morning, but a few snow squalls now all of a sudden. Happy to be here. Wonderful. Dorte in Denmark. Nice little heart from Dorte. The awakened INFJ. Good to see you, my friend. You just came to mind, and 2 seconds later you show up on the screen. Wonderful. Marty Hale in Vancouver, Washington. Hey, Marty. You're a neighbor of mine. And Jonas is in Sweden. Hizdansk. I'm sure I pronounced that badly. Play on. Allah. Don't know what that means. Kimberly, I have to watch later. We're driving to Pahrump. Well, good. I'll be here, and the replay will be here for forever, basically. Red rose for you. It's hard not trying to fill up the moment with doing or accomplishing, even though the present moment is enough. Maybe it's a balance of a balance of our human minds need to find. Yes, don't try to. This is about discovery. Don't try to force yourself into the place of not doing, right? Because you can't do it. There's, of course, the whole energy system, the whole flow of life is doing. That is, it is growing, it is evolving, it is shifting, it is changing, it is constant flux, right? Our job isn't to try to stop that or make it different, but it's to find the center of that wheel. The hub of the wheel does not move. The wheel will continue to move, and we want it to, especially if it's a nice car and we're going someplace cool, right? So don't try to, okay, I got to empty this moment. I got to empty this moment. Take some time during the day to just be with the natural emptiness of being. But I'm just here now. And then when you're in your day of doing, right? And my day is filled with doing. You're letting yourself become increasingly aware that the doing is happening. You're not really doing it. There's some kind of force at work that is just kind of managing itself, and that you're always in this place of this quiet, unmoving stillness. This is what we're really trying to get to. A lot of people, they get a lot of these non-dual ideas. Well, there is no doer. I have to stop doing. Well, to try to stop doing is to still be the doer. Now I'm trying to not be the doer, right? You can't get there that way. You can't get there from here, right? You don't have to stop any of that. This is a shift in the perception of ourself. Nothing more. Nothing more. Don't try to stop anything. Don't go quitting your job, right? Don't go up to the mountains in the Himalayas or become a monk or a nun. Just take some time dedicated to simply being present with yourself, noticing the natural impulse to be doing, noticing that has been kind of an unconscious habit that you now get control over, because you can just sometimes, not always, just sometimes, a couple times a day, just be quietly in that sense of being. And then during the day, whenever you have a moment, just stop for a second. I'm the hub of the wheel. All this activity, you can feel all the activity. You can feel the energy of creation, the energy of making things happen, and our aspirations and ambitions. And then let that stillness become just so ingrained in you that you're not doing. The doing is happening, and you're not the doer. It's not that if I'm not the doer, then nothing is happening. You find that the doing is just the natural flow of life itself. And that you're not doing it, but you're kind of riding it. You're on the surfboard riding the wave. That's a much more gentle way of approaching it. Right? This is not an attempt for us to grab, oh, I'm not supposed to be doing anything. So many silly ideas get sunk into us because of just really an immature teaching of non-duality and how it's really to be approached. It enhances life. It enhances doing, the doing part, by removing the ego from the doing and finding that the doing is the nature of life itself and you don't have to make it happen. And now the true non-duality is being aware of the unmoving center and the constantly active circumference, and that these two are actually one, and I am that one. Hopefully that helps you out there, Sonia. Jonah says, hi, Plan. McCurve, I think you just dissolved my question already without even reading it. Thanks. And now I've actually read it. And now Barbara is throwing out some things in Swedish. That's not fair. You saying nasty things about me? Let's see. Philip B. Firm. Philip B. Firm. Hey, from Brazil. Swede here. Swede in Brazil. Hello, sir. Several new people here. Tomacho, most appreciative of your words of late. Apropos and timely. Thank you. Wonderful new people. Lovely, lovely, lovely. When you see me kind of going, it's because I have all the comments collected together from all the places I'm broadcasting to, and there's 3 different places. And sometimes when I'm scrolling, it just jumps to the bottom, and I have to scroll back up to find my lost experience, or where I lost my place, because I don't want to skip over anyone. Boy, oh boy, way back. Oh, there's Lisa. Hi, Lisa. Sandra, also in Sweden. Mary says, yesterday I was on a Zoom call by A.H. Almas, and his talk was about the book I Am That. Wonderful. By Serena Nisargadatta. I have some questions about it. He brought up the part where Nisargadatta said that awareness is not aware of itself. I can see that. Oh, yay, good. Nisargadatta said that he himself was beyond awareness, which I thought was interesting. Do you have anything to say on this? This is really important. This is a really important point. Nisargadatta, what a character. We have to be clear that how when a master of the caliber of Nisargadatta uses the words, he's very consistent with the way he uses them, but he will kind of play with the meaning of them depending on who he's talking to. Okay, so we have to make sure that we're talking about words like the absolute consciousness, Buddha nature. That I know I go through pains to make sure I elucidate what I mean when I use the word, right? Because we'll hear a teacher speak, we'll hear the word, he's projecting, he's putting one meaning into it, you're putting another on it, and therefore you're not really understanding it. He's said he was beyond everything. He's speaking from the place of the pure, absolute knowingness, right? That doesn't even have a word. Even awareness, the word awareness is a reduction, isn't it, for the purpose of language. And if you are that awareness, and that's all there isn't even the word awareness. There isn't the word absolute. There's just being without a second. Therefore, it is inexplicable, it is ineffable, it is indescribable. It can be put into no context, and it can have no word. So every word is a manifestation of it. It is a reduction of it, right? You have to have two before you can have any kind of conversation or any kind of word. Even a conversation with myself, there has to be two before I can articulate anything. Every thought is a duality. Every thought is yin and yang. Whenever I say I, I'm automatically saying you, he, she, it, them. And every time I say you, I'm automatically saying I, he, she. It's all there simultaneously. So when he said he was beyond all, that's exactly what he was talking from. But the very fact that he said, I'm beyond awareness, right? Awareness is not aware of itself, and I am beyond awareness, was a reduction for him to even say it. As he said himself, that to put it into the absolute pure expression would be silence. So, for you and me that are not a Nisargadatta, you become aware that just stay with the sense of the aware, of being aware, and little by little, the words of it, the concepts of it, they'll get thinner and thinner until there's simply this sense that it's not even a sense. It's prior even to the sense of awareness. And you recognize pure, absolute awareness without words. And that's what he's referring to. And so when you're talking on this level, right, which is really at the precipice, this is the edge. Language, this is as far as you can push language, right? You have to be extremely cautious about the words that are being used, and also very cautious about who you're speaking to, so that you don't use these, just kind of throw these ideas off, right, as an absolute statement. That's what I complain about a lot of Advaita teachers. That's what they do. They don't take any effort to bring the student there. They just kind of lay it on them. So remember, we're not talking about awareness as a conceptual object. We're talking about it as yourself. So you have to look at it from the point of view of you having an experience. Who is having the experience? And what would the experience be? What are you without any experience whatsoever? Because experience comes and goes, no matter what the form is. The ultimate, absolute experiencer doesn't come and go, cannot be an experience, cannot be experienced. So it's actually even illegitimate to say there's an experiencer at all. Right? You're on the threshold there. Right? And you're just going to hang out there, and concepts will fall away. It'll get thinner and thinner. This will become clearer and clearer, and the universe will simply collapse into you at some point. As they say in Zen, have you swallowed the ocean in a single gulp? You'll swallow the ocean in a single gulp. So thank you for that, Mary. I missed something above. Sandra, hi from Sweden. Did I say hi to you? Hello to you. La Luna, sweet Luna. Gratitude, and gratitude to you. Yogasvara. Thanks, G. The winds of change are blowing all doors open, and many of us feeling and re-experiencing many emotions that we have once protected ourselves from feeling again. Yay. Yay. Yes, indeed. That's exactly what's happening. We are all, the whole world is invited to ascend. If I can use it's kind of a popular term right now. And most of the time I don't like the way that word is used, but it is from the point of view of our human experience, it's an ascending consciousness, it's a developing consciousness. From the point of view of the Absolute, nothing's changed at all. Nothing at all. There's no growth, there's no need to grow, there's no soul's journey, there's no destination. From the point of view of the truth, of the Absolute Being. That Absolute Being is expressed in the experience of growth, discovery, forgetting, growing, discovering, forgetting, growing, and discovering. And this is all part of the infinite theme of awakening. You're seeing is the infinite motif of awakening playing itself out. That's the only thing that's ever been happening since the first little amoeba, since the first little critters in the ocean emerged, and even prior, from the Big Bang. It's the only thing that's ever been happening. It's all a symbolic representation of the motif of awakening, appearing to the one who never slept. T-pause, says Lisa. Yes, bring your own gym music. Oh, absolutely. I cannot tolerate the music in the gym. I just can't. Yes, but the music in the gym was always the same. I could go off on some comments on some of the things I've noticed. You know, I've spent a life in music, and you just kind of watch what's happened to popular music is just it's dreadful. Lisa, non-goal-oriented meditation. Yes. All goals, all desires eventually converge into this one desire to know the self, to know yourself as you actually are. That one desire will eradicate all lesser desires and make you one-pointed in your focus. And it takes that kind of one-pointed focus to really penetrate this mystery. And then eventually even that desire has to be set aside to just settle into complete goal-free, attainment-free meditation where there's no one to attain anything. Mark said, yeah, I always thought I was the only one listening to non-duality at the gym. I suspect there's not many of us. But I could be pleasantly. Wouldn't that be funny if they're playing all this stuff and everybody's listening to I Am That or the Abhadat Gita? That would be funny. Took time to sign in as I had to change password and all that involved. Bill, glad you're here, Anne. Wonderful, wonderful. Lisa says, yes, only have eyes for that. Yep. That's the process of meditation, is letting go of all lesser desires. Merck says, yes, yeah, the doer never did anything other than narrate, and it's not me. And it's not being quiet and happy about losing apparent control. No, it isn't. But remember, there's no entity there that's unhappy about losing control. This is so important to grasp. The ego is a word for the functioning of resistance. And resistance is simply a training of the nervous system to not want things to be different than they are. And when it detects something attempting to make a shift in the environment or in you or in sense of identity, it will begin to resist. But it is a robotic reactive pattern. There isn't any thing or entity or sentient being that is doing the resisting. This is so important to see. It is not something trying to stop you. It feels that way because it is very sensitive to the environment. The very best way to meet that is by creating such an inner environment of safety that to the surprise of the nervous system, that environment immediately begins to entice it to begin to drop out of its defenses, that is, drop resistance. The best way to do it is to simply reconcile with it, to allow it to be there. When you take the side of just allowing, the sense of resistance inevitably begins to diminish, because you're not joining in with the resistance. I've got to get rid of this. You say, this is perfectly all right. You can be here. It's not comfortable, but you can be here. You can feel the difference, right? No, it's got to be. You have now actually begun to empower the resistance, which is the egoic mind. So if you're just with it, whatever you happen to be feeling in this moment, just let it be there. You'll find that there's this calmness that begins to come over the system. It begins to relax. So that's all. You're dealing with a functioning system that is not an entity. So even the word ego, in our minds, we tend to think of it as like this thing, this being, this dreadful little hairy, ugly thing hiding in the bushes, just ready to mess up your life at every opportunity. There's no entity. There's nobody there. It is simply a non-sentient, mindless functioning that we can then have enormous compassion for, but also we can be utterly firm with. We don't have to go along with it. And we can't hurt its feelings because there's nobody there whose feelings to be hurt. To really understand that this is the functioning of the egoic mind, you'll make rapid strides towards really being the master of it. Beautiful advice, says Luna, sweet Luna. Thank you, Luna. La Luna, sweet Luna. Yeah, I left the la off. The Awakened INFJ says, where I am right now in life, where I get caught over and over, is in relationship to other people, where remaining as awareness doesn't always hold its ground, if so to say. The role, the person, tends to kick in most cases, when I am to spend time with people. Of course, it happens when I spend time alone too, but especially when spending time with others. All right, I'm going to draw your attention to something very subtle. When you are with others, are you aware of them? After you have been identified with the triggering, right, and the stuff that comes up when you're with other people, are you not aware of the fact that that has happened? Are you not aware of the fact that you have been aware even when you weren't aware that it was happening, that awareness was still there? Do you have to ever really remain as awareness? Or is awareness simply always there? We get this notion that somehow I'm going in and out of awareness, but isn't there something aware of the going in and out? The thing isn't to really remain as awareness, but to begin to be more consistently, we're consistently, consciously aware that the awareness is always there, and I can't go in and out of it. If I go in and out of it, I go into unawareness, which means I would simply cease to exist. If I went out of awareness, I would not exist. There would be nothing, oblivion. This is the recognition of the real nature of awareness that has nothing to do with the content appearing in front of awareness. In front of awareness, it appears as though there's somebody who's lost contact with awareness. And then somebody who got it back. The belief is that I'm that somebody moving in and out of it. You're not. You're the awareness that is watching it. And what's happening is when you're by yourself, right, in the environment you've created, right, there aren't any triggers. There's nothing to set off various reactive patterns in the nervous systems. No buttons are being pushed. Right? When I am with other people, in any kind of react, be it social or romantic or business or family, there's going to be, the nervous system, of course, has been trained to react in certain ways in certain environments, and so it will. That's what it was designed to do. That's what it's been trained to do. All you have to do is be aware of it. The more aware of it you are, the less potent the triggers become, the less unconscious they are, until they fall away completely. But you are always the awareness. I got to bring you back to that. You're not someone who is in awareness one moment and then out of it the next. You can't get out of it. You cannot stop being you. All you have to do is recognize that in front of the awareness, sometimes it appears as though there's somebody who's identified with awareness, and sometimes there's somebody appearing who appears to be identified with the separate self. But neither one of those is actually awareness. Awareness is what is aware of both of those. The awareness is aware of the seeker and the seeking. And it's what's being sought. And it's been there the whole time. This is the great realization. Right? You've never left it, because that's you. There's only been the belief that you had, and an entire life, character, personality, nervous system conditioning all around that belief that there's somebody who fell out of awareness and is now trying to find their way back. The entire drama, this entire dream of Vishnu is being watched by the very thing that the dream is trying to attain. You've never been the dreamer. You've never been asleep. The awareness has always been there. Awakeness wakes up to the fact that it's never been asleep. What really happens is the illusion disappears. And you stand as you always have been. Right? So when it happens, simply say to yourself, to whom is this happening? To whom is this appearing? No matter what the content is, to whom is this content appearing? To me. Have I gone anywhere? No. Who am I? When you ask that question, especially in the beginning, the mind will start, well, you're this, this, and this. Wait a minute. All these answers as to who am I, to whom are they appearing? To me. I don't want to know about me. I don't want another concept of me. Who am I? The direct knowingness. Okay, whatever it is that's watching this, that's who I am. I'm here. I know I'm here. How do I know I'm here? I don't know, but I know. But that's pure inquiry right there. And then the mind will answer it, oh yeah, you're this. No, wait a minute. If it's a thought or perception or a feeling, I'm perceiving it. It can't be me. So who am I? That will keep the attention focused on being aware of being aware. And then even the dream will become really quite unbelievable. Even comical. Barbara says, anybody else having trouble with interruptions of the streaming? 4 to 5 times so far. Is anybody else? Pretty okay, Barbara. It happened once. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't control what's happening all over the world. I have the fastest internet you can get here in the Seattle area of the United States, and between because this is the home of Amazon, Boeing, and Microsoft. It's about as good of internet service as you can get. So I'm pretty sure it's not happening over here. I usually get some kind of notice if it's flaky or something. So there's some old conditioning that doesn't want people to be uncomfortable, feeling like my natural self is confronting. People's shadows and insecurities, surely a projection of my own mind. Surely. Yeah, it is. Yeah. There may be some conditioning. I don't want people to be uncomfortable. And there's some validity in that. You know, who wants to make people uncomfortable? Right? Nobody sets out to do that. Right? And sometimes when you're sensitive, as you are, to the feelings of people around you, and you sense somebody getting uncomfortable, you may actually alter the way you're interacting with them. If you're conscious of that and don't see it as a problem or some kind of inhibition on your character, then you just make that adjustment and that's it. We don't have to have deep and intimate direct connections to everyone. Whatever the interaction is, if it's authentic, based on the energy exchange in the moment, then that's all there is to it. That's as far as you can go. I can't talk like this to everybody. You know, sometimes it's a simple conversation at the at the checkout counter, right? At the grocery store or something. But I know that the general level of energy that I carry touches people. Right? And I don't react, the lines out the door and people are getting upset about this or that. I don't react. I know that has an effect, right? But I can't always be, completely, there, dialed in with someone. And, sometimes people feel uncomfortable. I've gotten a couple of nasty grams on YouTube videos the last couple of weeks. Some of the things they say make people uncomfortable. They don't like it. Okay. I try to word responses to that as best I can, but there really isn't anything I can do about it. And in fact, we don't actually even know what they're thinking, right? What they're actually feeling. And they might not either. You may be knowing they're feeling it like you're being confronting, and they're not even aware of it. Right? This stuff is just so subtle, and when you're a sensitive person to this kind of thing, just have to, don't assume anything, right? Always take it back to, what am I feeling in this moment? Do I feel like I can fully express myself in this moment? If the answer is yes, well, then all is well. If the answer is no, it's like, am I just kind of sensitive to where this person's at and there's no need for me to press their buttons? Or am I afraid? If I'm afraid, you might want to, don't try to push your way through. You might want to take a look at that. Oh, I'm afraid of being criticized. I'm afraid of not being respected. And so I am inhibiting myself. Now that's worth noticing. Right? In that moment, you may not do anything about it. You may not be able to do anything about it. But if you notice that, oh, I feel like there's something to express, but I'm afraid to, I will be with that. And just be with that in that moment. And notice how it comes back to simply what your own experience is rather than what their experience is. And at this point, you're not going to be projecting anymore. You'll be completely within the realm where you have authority and where something really, really powerful can happen. And you may find that just being present with it, that energy will shift, that fear will drop away, and you may find yourself in a deeper conversation. And what was being experienced, you imagined them to be experienced, drops away with it. Again, you have to just remain really sensitive to this. It's quite beautiful. Marguerite, Kiwet, hello from France. Kiwet? Kiwet? Kiwet, Kiwet, because that's right, French. A little late from France. Well, glad you're here. Merck says we have to act out a role to interact with other roles, I guess. Yes, of course. You don't show up as nobody. We're always showing up as someone. You just have to realize that it's a role. And the role, and if you do realize that, and none of the I am none of the roles that I play, right? Then you're free to just move freely. And at that point, what happens is the role, the personality, the persona that arises in a precisely perfect way to meet the energetic needs of that moment. Because you have the full resources of the infinite power of expression at your disposal. You're not stuck in any role, right? If you're stuck in a role, then no matter what the circumstances, you always try to show up in the same way, which of course isn't going to work, right? But if you're not stuck in a role, if you know yourself to be no role in particular, the role, the identity, whoever you need to be in the moment, appears in that moment, lasts for the moment, can constantly morph to shape the moment as it's changing. And then in that moment, when it's done, just falls out of it. You're not that again. You step into the role. Right now, I'm the teacher. When this is over, I won't be. And I won't want to be. I'll be doing something else. I have some editing to do. I'll become the editor, right? And eventually I have to become the dishwasher. So it's not, oh, I can't be anybody. I can't play a role. No, of course. You're always playing a role, right? You're always playing a role, right? Just realize that they come and go. They're not who you are. And then just, you'll begin to see how incredibly adaptable the whole energy system is to take a shape appropriate for every moment. And there's your freedom. If the basis is pure being, it's natural. I just feel energetically often that a fear arises to remain as I am, not always, but often still, mainly getting caught around family and close friends, new people and new friends, feel more like myself and less like the conditioned person thing. The people that know us expect us to be a certain way. And yes, they do. Right? And you'll feel that. You'll feel energetically the urge and the pressure sometimes to show up the way they want you to. Just be aware of it. Don't try to fight it. Just the more awareness you bring to it, the less importance it'll have, and the more easily it'll just kind of begin to fall away. Right? Because, yeah, I mean, I remember experiencing it for a while. You get into a circumstance, you haven't been there, go see family or something, and suddenly you're a 10-year-old boy again. It's like, what? Where did that come from? Well, I know where it came from. So, okay. That awareness is all it takes. Merck says, so there isn't anything really corresponding to our perceptions? No, nothing. This is quite a huge thing to grasp, but no, it is nothing but perception. Perception is not perceiving an object separate from itself. The act of perceiving and the act of creating are one. The world is perceiving. It does not exist separate from it. Eveline, hi from Maryland. I'm new to your teachings. I've received so much. I'm already living with less resistance and more peace. Thank you. You're really welcome. It's so great to get that feedback from folks, because that's why I do this. To feel the joy of living life without resistance to it. And it doesn't matter how long we have been or how deeply we've been programmed into resistance. Sometimes it can take a while to undo it, but it will always undo, because it's not our natural state. It was a state we got programmed into, that we had to get into because of a perceived danger. When we realize that danger isn't really there anymore, and the whole nervous system gets that message, that danger isn't there anymore. The resistance falls away, and the most wonderful feeling of equanimity and the power of self-expression begins to emerge. And because it's getting all that energy back again. So I'm so glad to hear that. Thank you, Eveline. Eveline, I would think, yeah. Jonah's person self gives into that pretty often. I wonder if G have some advice for this. When at times I remain as I am, pure is so beautiful, the dynamics, the experience, perfect somehow. Yeah. Yeah, that's okay, right? Don't be in a hurry. Slow down. Simply remain aware. Whenever you seem to fall out of it, recognize, oh, I am now aware that I fell out of it, and then notice that even the entire time you were in it and apparently fell out of it, awareness was there, aware of the entire thing. Keep bringing that sense of I back to that. Right? Because you are always in that pure, beautiful state. That's reality. Right? The rest is coming and going. And you can let it come and go. You can have that feeling. The state, you say, I mean, it's so beautiful, the dynamics, the experiencing is perfect somehow. Yes, but it's not an experience. When you make it an experience, it can come and go, because that's all experiences do. It is yourself, which does not come and go. So when you say at times, I remain as I am, when are you not as you are? Really ponder that. And you'll find that it is only a belief you're entertaining that says you ever fall out of it, that you're not remaining as it. And then that belief creates it as an experience. But the entire thing is happening to awareness. But the power of the self is so powerful that that belief then gets manifested as if there was somebody experiencing the absence of the self. But how can anything at all be experienced in the absence of the self? Nothing exists in the absence of the self. You are always that. You are always what is. This is the truth. It is not an idea truth. It is the truth of being. It is the Sat in the Satsang. It is being itself. Being is truth. So, Mark says, thanks for bringing truckloads of clarity, GP. You're welcome, Mark. Liza, 3:33, daylight saving. Yes, that's right, daylight savings time. Oh my, I'm really behind here, aren't I? I'm just up to the questions that from a half an hour in. Big smile from Amy. Oh, this is so good. Thank you as always. Oh, you're welcome, Jonas. Mark, it's like comprehending a void. Yeah, you can't actually comprehend a void, right? You're becoming fully aware of the nature of the void, or as they say in Buddhism, emptiness, right? Or shunyata in the Sanskrit. We're going past the comprehending. Started doing Spanish. Comprehending of the void into the being the void. I am the void. I am this absolute emptiness. You can call it nothingness, but it's not nothing. I obviously am. So it's not nothing, as in oblivion, complete negation or absence. It's just not something as a thing. It is void of all attributes. It is pure being itself. It is the pure emptiness, that emptiness which is simultaneously the fullness, the everything, the nothingness and the allness. Lisa is happy to see that there's another INFJ here. There's Jacqueline from the Netherlands. Beautiful, beautiful. A lot of folks in the Netherlands, Sweden today. Mark, Cornelius, Oregon. Ah, a neighbor of mine. Good to have you. Robert dosa. In this 3D experience, I see 4 bodies or planes or states: physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Each one is layered like an onion, with physical being in the center. Does the I am represent the 5th state? Nice question. That is a model, the 5D thing. But I want to bring your attention to something. The self, that which is aware, is there not something aware of the physical, the emotional, the mental, and even the spiritual? Is there not something aware of those? Whatever's aware of those must be beyond them, must be transcendent to them. No matter how many dimensions you come up with, something is aware of all of the dimensions. The self is inexplicable and ineffable because it is dimensionless. The best you could say is it's dimension 0. It is, everything else must be in some position to be perceived. Every dimension can only be perceived by that dimension or some other dimension, right? The 3D plane sees the 2D plane, the 4D sees the, on and on it goes. So we have these ideas of beings of light from the 5D plane and all of that sort of stuff. But let's just look really closely at this act of perceiving, the experience of perceiving. All of those are known by something. Without that essential awareness, knowing those planes, they would have no existence. They're purely theoretical. Something has to know them. That knowingness is beyond the emotional, the physical, the mental, and even what we normally call spiritual, or some kind of energetic range, or light body, or oral body, oral body, or energy body, or repository body, or any of the layers that are spoken of. All of them are perceived. There's only one thing that is not perceived, and that's the ultimate perceiver. You can't step outside of that and look at it. It doesn't have a dimension. It's not in space or time. That's why it is completely unknowable to the mind. The I am represents the sense I am, which is the firstborn of the pure absolute awareness. That first experience of self is the sense I am. That is the nexus, the absolute center out of which all the other dimensions are an aspect. This is what mortals call God, the creator, the focal point, the logos, the word, the first principle. But that first principle is the experiential aspect of the absolute, spaceless, timeless, dimensionless, unknowable beingness. So all of those other dimensions are great, and there can be beings on all of them, just like there are here, right? As different, you can't have a conversation with a spider, right? Or an amoeba. They live in a different dimension. There's all sorts of, when you look at it from the point of view of consciousness, you can have a conversation with somebody on the street you've never met and be 2 completely different dimensions, 2 completely different worlds, right? So there's no limit to it, right? People, this 5D or 10D in science now is like 11D or 8 or something like that, some magic dimensional. No, there's no limit on them. It's absolutely unlimited. It's completely and totally unlimited, because the 0th dimension, the self, has no dimensions. It has no limits, right? Nothing to define it. The moment the self becomes contained within anything, it is now finite, and so it can no longer be the self. Right? The self is the self of all. It is the self of the beings of the 5D. It's the self of the the beings of the 1D, the water beings, the divas in the heavens upon heavens. There's only one self, and it has no dimension whatsoever. Is that answered for you, Robert? Great question. Great question. I've heard recently some people talking about 5D light beings and that sort of thing. It's beautiful. I've had a couple of little experiences like that myself, but I was taught early on by the masters, if I can experience it, it can't be me. It's not the ultimate reality. It's just an experience. So it's going to be another modulation of consciousness. Right? Who are you? Who is it who is this ultimate perceiver to which it's all appearing? And are these all not appearing to you? That ultimate perceiver must be you. That ultimate dimensionless self must be you. Merc, so the trouble, there just jumped again. Is mostly that language can't really handle no separation. No, it can't, because that's all it is for, creating distinctions and contrasts that are just useful for communication. Absolutely. The observer can't exist without something observed and vice versa. In language, yes, but not in reality. In language, not in reality. As you pointed out, language by definition is dualistic, one thing defined in terms of something else. And we need that to speak, which is why the best use of language in non-dual teaching is always a pointing. I point you back to experience. I point you away from dualistic definitions and concepts to what you are actually experiencing directly, without concepts, without a story. And that eventually that can be completely turned around so that you get to the ultimate experiencer and realize that the experiencing, the knowingness, is the beingness. Now, that is not something the mind can grasp. It can't really be put into words because I had to use 2 words to say it. The Sat Chit Ananda, being, consciousness, bliss. Existence, awareness of existence, and the bliss or peace of existence. These are one, right? That one, as one, cannot be expressed. The Tao that can be spoken is not the true Tao. So at best, what we do is point. Right? It's over there. Look, it's over there. Don't bother looking there. It's not there. Look there. Just keep looking there, and you will eventually see it. But of course, it's not there that I'm pointing. It's here. And even this is an off dimension, isn't it? It's not here. It's not inside my lung or my kidney or my liver or something. Right? So even the word in, right, has to come out of the realm of dimensions. Right? In as opposed to out. Right? It's a good pointer because when I say in, I say, okay, if I'm watching my thoughts and I'm not the thoughts, then I'm closer to in. I'm closer to me, to that which is seeing the thoughts. This is a different kind of dimension. It's headed to the zeroth dimension, as I was speaking at a little bit before to Robert. So the observer, in language, the sense of observing and observer, you can't separate them. Everything's got a subject and a noun, right? Even the I am is a subject, I am. The ultimate cannot be spoken. It cannot be spoken at all. It's just this silent knowing that isn't even knowing that it's knowing. I can't describe it. I'm pretty good with words, and well. Steffi, hello Steffi. Hi from Germany. Hello to you. I think I missed one here. Yeah, Clara. Hi Clara. Could I ask why EFT is so much more effective in clearing the path from my manifestations than inner inquiry? Thank you so much for your valuable content. Well, I use EFT in the context of inner inquiry. The purpose of inner inquiry is not manifestation. It has no external object or goal whatsoever, and therefore is not going to serve that purpose. That's not what it's for. I do find that if the inquiry is sincere and one-pointed, manifestations do occur, but they're not the result of some kind of intention or some kind of visualization or some kind of desire. The inner inquiry frees you from all desire. The freedom from desire, by the way, doesn't make you empty. Desires come and go. There's no attachment to the desire. And so desire, which is a feeling of wanting, disappears in the inquiry and merges into a feeling of having. That feeling of having will, of course, produce manifestations. But as long as the mind is more interested in the manifestation than in the inquiry, then the inquiry will be regarded as a means to that end, and now it's not pure. It's not really doing the inquiry. And so it won't produce a manifestation for the most part, and it won't produce the ultimate self-realization because it's being diluted. With EFT, using it for the purpose of manifestation is that you are simply using it to help clear from the body resistance to having what you want, which it's very effective at doing, right? So you can see it's a very different dynamic. It's a very different approach, right? Self-inquiry, the purpose of self-inquiry is to know who you are. That's its only purpose. That's its whole reason for being, right? And so to try to put it to any other purpose dilutes both the purpose you're trying to put it to and the inquiry. Whereas EFT is not for that. I use it for that to help, right? But that's not its intent. Its intent is simply to bring a sense of calm and safety to the energy system that allows you to release traumatic material. Releasing the traumatic material, you have less resistance to your own dreams and ambitions and desires and the like, and therefore it is a tool that can effectively be applied for that as the ambition. And I just have to point that out because that is the ambition of it, but that is not spirituality. There's a lot of people who confuse all that, realizing the life of my dreams, and they mix up that spirituality and energy healing as if spirituality is kind of a form of energy. It's not. Spirituality has one purpose, the realization of who I actually am. Energy healing has a bunch of different purposes, all therapeutic. And if somebody's not the least bit interested in spiritual inquiry, that's fine. I'll work with them in allowing. I'll do EFT and clear away what we can, and in the hopes that they will come to them what they really need to get, and if that's the case, I'll work with somebody therapeutically, and I have. And I work with one guy who wanted to be a better gambler. I mean, clearly not a spiritual ambition. Other people have wanted to have a lot of money. It's fine. It's fine. Anytime you reduce your inner resistance, you're opening the door that will eventually open all the way and turn inward. Eventually, the attraction of the manifestation of the various things, states, relationships, emotional states, even spiritual states, relationships, accomplishments, wealth, and the like. Eventually, that stuff will be seen to be not completely satisfying. Something will still be missing. And when that happens, the attention will very naturally turn inward. So I'm hoping I'm really clarifying that this isn't a criticism. I'm just trying to make sure you understand that you don't want to mix those two. Don't use self-inquiry for anything other than discovering who you are, because it won't help. It's the wrong tool for the job. And EFT, because it's a lesser tool, I can adapt it to helping people, because there's a part of the inquiry where you have to reconcile with the own energy system, the various kinds of traumas and our fears and self-hatred and self-judgment, the same kind of things that have to be cleared away to experience manifestation. So there are similar modalities that can be used, but the direction of the paths are very, very different. I hope I said that clearly. Thank you for that, Clara. A beautiful question. Thank you. John Lucas. Hello, John. Hi, G. John in Portland. The center metaphor helps. It's such a simple message. Just a simple perspective shift can start the whole internal revolution. Yes, it really is. It really is like that. The center, the hub of the wheel. Remember, non-duality is not at odds with life, right? This isn't a religion, right? Where life is supposed to do this. You're supposed to. There's none of that in there. There's no vows of poverty or celibacy. None of that. If something is true, if something is truly, really, really true, it must be the comprehensive explanation of everything. You can't just say, that doesn't exist, push it out. Because if I'm even talking about it, it has some existence, right? It's an actual objective existence or a conceptual existence, which are very different, right? But if I even say, that doesn't exist, well, okay, I've still got to accommodate it. It has to be comprehensive. Non-duality is a comprehensive view. It explains everything, not just a couple of things, and not just by explaining away some things. So it explains all the dynamic energy of the universe, all the worlds of manifest forms, even how manifestation takes place and why, where it actually comes from. And it doesn't discount any of it. It just puts it in its right context. That at the center of the incredibly constant moving and fluctuating universe is an unchanging center. And that unchanging center is the self. It is you. You're the one sitting there. You've just been laboring under the belief that you're somebody out there on the wheel. Right? You're the hub of the wheel. You're not moving. And so it can help bring one back to recognize the place you're actually standing in. That you really are standing right now in the unmovable place, but you have just been convinced that you're spinning on the wheel somewhere. That's why it's an illusion. It's a misperception of what's actually happening. The experiencing of the wheel is happening, but the one experiencing it is at the center of the hub. That's it. Mary says, thank you. You're welcome, Mary. Anuja, the way you explained how Nisargadatta said, I am beyond awareness, that he was reducing it so that matches our understanding. It finally is clear to me why Ramana Maharshi would be mostly silent. GP, if from the point of view of the absolute there is no growth of expansion, why the whole play of existence? The whole play of existence has to arise out of the nature of the self itself, out of the nature of the absolute itself. It can't be the absolute seeking something, because it's the absolute. The infinite can't seek anything, can it? It's the infinite. To seek something, there would have to be something outside of it. God can't seek anything. So, what appears as growth and expansion is simply the spontaneous arising within absolute awareness of its own being. The pure knowingness does not know itself. There's nothing to be known. It is simply all. The best way I can point at it, and again, nobody can articulate it, right? Imagine the infinite, the absolute, as an infinite mind, and the infinite self. Nothing but that exists, right? But it's not static. It's not just this blob, right? Its nature is awareness, right? The nature of mind is mind. The nature of consciousness is, it is conscious, right? Well, conscious of what? Well, what is there for it to be conscious of? What is awareness aware of? The only thing there is, itself. So awareness is aware of itself. Now again, I'm using words here because I can in the next breath say awareness does not know itself. But it is aware. It is aware of itself. That awareness of itself is the image that we call mind, which is the universe. Everything. Unfolding eternally. Right? Notice, one moment after another, right? Something constantly developing, every theme, the theme of life. Life is like the motif of a symphony, constantly redefining itself, growing from one thing to another. No two things alike. Everything made out of something smaller, made out of something smaller, made out of something smaller. Each one of those things, no two things alike. No repetition whatsoever. The sheer vastness of the infinitude of the manifest world. What is it? It is God pondering herself. Nothing more. That's all there is to ponder. But the nature of awareness is infinite intelligence, infinite selfness, infinite self-awareness. And so what appears is an unfolding universe. What it is simply awareness loving itself, loving its own nature. Is that the best way I can put it? It is the great mystery. And we're trying to put new wine into old wineskins. We're trying to fit these words into, the absolute, which is beyond concepts, into our concepts. So there's going to be a bit of clumsiness, inevitably, a little bit of awkwardness. The shoes aren't going to quite fit right. So Ramana Maharshi would simply at times just be silent. And people would have enormous insights and growth and sometimes awakening, simply experiencing this presence as themselves. This is key. It wasn't the experience of Ramana's silence was not Ramana being silent. It was silence itself. There was no Ramana. There was the pure being, and that is me. Now, you are that pure being. Are you not aware of a universe? The universe can only come into being with a focus of attention. So awareness, the focus of attention is what we call consciousness. And that focus of attention is what you call you and your life. The entire universe is being seen through your eyes. Without you, there is no universe. Who are you? You are the self. You are awareness aware of itself. Right? So the image, for lack of a better word, the image awareness is holding is what we call reality, but in fact it is just the appearance. It is nothing other than the awareness. It is appearing to awareness, it is appearing in awareness, and it is made of awareness, just like your dreams at night are all you, all the characters are you. It is made of you, it is all made of dream material. There's no real substance out of which the experiences are being made. There's no real distance, just relative perception. That's a hint into the nature of the divine intelligence, the infinite intelligence, pondering the only thing there is to ponder, its own infinite nature. And thus you get infinite, eternal unfoldment, growth. But there's not a thing growing. There's only the appearance of an evolution, which you might say is simply the evolving awareness. It's not evolving of the self. I could so easily get lost in this. It's the playground of the infinite. But of course, it's all just an appearance, right? There's nothing growing. There's nothing evolving. It's a theme. You know, da 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 da, da 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 da, da 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 da. The same theme, right? 4 notes. Now, is that evolving? Well, yeah, when we look at it in the context of time, right? And because we heard this one first, da 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 da, and then we heard this one, da 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 da, then we heard this, da 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 da. It seems like this theme is growing, but what is the theme? Which one of those is? They're all a variation. Everything is a variation on this one theme, an appearance of this one theme over and over and over again. And what is the theme? Beingness, the self, isness. Words are so hard. I hope that helps. Anuja. Cooking and non-duality, tasty. They go together well. Mario, hello Mario. Does Vedanta relate to karma would still occur even though we practice our awareness? For example, illness. Thank you, Mario, for that. Yes. To the degree that I am identified, there's a lingering identification with the separate self, there will be the experience of karma. When there's no longer any identification with the separate self, there'll be events playing out, right? But there are no karmic implications, because the events are something you are simply witnessing. They are not you. At that point, there's simply an energetic pattern that's playing itself out. Just like, you know, if you overcome some traumatic event in your life that has set in motion some recurring patterns of behavior, right? And you finally get to the root of that through whatever means, and that trauma finally gets released. Those patterns may continue for a while, right? The patterns that evolved when the trauma was still stuck inside you, that kind of conditioning, even when that trauma goes away, the habit energy is still there in the system for a while, right? But if there's no longer anything feeding it, it will eventually deteriorate and just dissolve. It'll just go away. Right? This is karma. There's an energy behind it, but the only thing that sustains it is our identification with the separate self, with the person. When that is really severed, then that's nirvana. That sense is extinct. It's gone. The energy will continue for a while, but eventually it too will dissipate. And karma is just conditioning over multiple lifetimes. I mean, the conditioning the whole energy system receives in a lifetime is a reflection of the energetic patterns of karma, right? In the disidentification of form with form, that is the end of karma, the end of the separate self, we recognize that there is no cause and effect, right? That everything is a spontaneous appearing in this moment. It is not some energy from the past. It is just this right now. And that eventually completely dissolves what remains of this energy pattern of karma. And even the idea of karma. Karma does not apply to the self, only to the idea you have about yourself. And that idea has gone from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. That's why it's just karmic and not merely conditioning. It is not limited to just this form. That is a much more subtle habit energy the habit energy of simply identifying with form at all. Whether that form be, I'm a cat, right? Or I'm amoeba, or I'm a male, or I'm a female. The identification with form goes lifetime to lifetime to lifetime until that's finally broken. That breaking is what we're talking about right now. That breaking of that is Vedanta. And when it is thoroughly broken, karma ends. It can continue a while, like I said. As Nisargadatta put it beautifully, he said, I leave my human life to fulfill its destiny. I remain as I am. I was never born. I'm never going to die. This stuff will just play itself out until it has run out of steam. That's what the word nirvana means, extinguish. It refers to a flame, like in a candle or a match or something, and once the fuel has exhausted, it just simply extinguishes. No transition. It means extinct, extinguished, right? That is, all that energy is gone. It is just the pure hub of the wheel, and nothing is even spinning. Great question, Mario. Merck says, so resistance is just impersonal algorithms playing out its generic programming. Yes. Nobody is resisting. If you're fighting a robot and the robot's really pushing against you and you're pushing back, is there somebody there resisting? It's just a program. You say, hey Siri, or hey Alexa, right? Play. Do you know the capital of of Tibet? And Siri comes back and says, I don't know that. Is there really an I there? There's no I. There's no actual I. The energy of our nervous system, there's no I. Not an actual I. When I say I mean a conscious entity. The only conscious entity is you. You're obviously a conscious entity. The problem is you've mistaken the I that is referring to something that isn't an entity, and you think it's you. So there's nobody resisting. There's only the robotic habit patterns of resistance. See that, and you'll immediately get a power over it that you wouldn't have any other way. Ego's like the monster under your bed at night. That's the way we depict it, yeah. Akira says, Simpsons is the best president in the history of the world. If you're talking about the Simpsons, I agree. Akira, Quebec. You're new too, I think. God, so many new people today. Wonderful, wonderful. Lisa Marie, amazing GP. To add what INFG says, sometimes I find it hard to identify with the person that others believe me to be. Sort of, I feel like I'm an energy blob, and sometimes I have to perform as the person. Hope it makes sense. You don't have to ever identify with it, okay? To identify means, the word identify, to make identical with. You never have to identify with the role. I am never the role. You are never the role, right? When I believe I'm the role, I'm identified with it. So simply play the role is not an identification with it, right? The actor plays their part in the movie. They know they're not that person. A good actor really immerses themselves and takes on all those characteristics. But unless they go mad, they don't actually believe they are that. And there's been some occasions when that's happened. Jonathan Winters happened to him several times. He was hospitalized because he'd get into one of his characters and not come out. And that does happen sometimes. It is oftentimes a case where a big celebrity actually, and it's nothing but a persona, right? The celebrity persona is a persona, start thinking they are that. And they get lost in that. And they suffer a lot if they have to do something normal, or can get really lost in that. It's not regarded as an illness. It should be, right? Some of these characters that are famous for being famous, you get stuck in that. So you're not an energy blob. You're an energy field. Energy is not even the right word. You're a field of consciousness in which anything can occur. And so blobs will appear and take form. And that's what we call, our life experiences, others, and the like. But it's all the same. It's all the same field of consciousness, which is prior even to energy, by the way. So, La Luna, sweet Luna, I just lost you. Where did you go? There you are. I feel bliss to be within this circle. Oh, yay. I'm so glad. I've practiced meditation throughout life. Transcendental focus. I deeply appreciate contribution. Tears, joy to listen to you articulate with perfection. All I have believed beyond name and form, completely empty, utterly full. Each day is a gift, a heart gift. Contribution is magnificent. Gifts remind all to remember gifts. My sign-off is love, light, and awareness. Thank you. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Internet is overloading. Okay. Wow, beautiful. Robert Dosa. Out of curiosity, off topic, what broadband speeds do you have there? Download and upload. It's close to a gig upload, about 800 meg. And actually the download's slower. It's fiber optic, right? So there's slight variation, but it's like about 600 download meg and 800 upload. So this is, that's why I've got 1080p now. I could do it. My wireless is actually slower. I mean, it upgrade the wireless to keep up, but I don't really need it that much. So there's our technical thing. Robert, Anaji, is the awakening automatic? Who's doing anything to make it happen? Will it happen? It will happen when it will happen. Is this correct? Yeah, I like to say, awakening is an accident, but there are ways to become more accident prone. It's all about the way we perceive it, right? If you're making effort to awaken, like attending a satsang, this is an effort to awaken. To asking a question is to clarify something, right? I don't want anybody to stop that and say, I shouldn't be doing it. It's supposed to be effort. It's just happening, right? Yeah, it's happening. It's just happening. It's something inside you brought you here to satsang, right? That just kind of happened. You're cooperating with it, right? But you're coming along with it. This desire to have this question answered arose, and you actually asked that question, right? Now, all of that is being prompted by the awakening itself. So it is just happening. Now, if you have a prompting to do whatever you can to participate in it, well, that too is just happening, right? So it isn't like, right, is it just going to happen, so I just got to sit here and wait? It is happening. It's always happening. That's the only thing that ever has been happening. Every event in your life has actually been that happening. Every event in your life has molded, directed you, channeled you so that you could eventually hear, understand, and engage with the Dharma, the true teaching of reality, the true Gita. So you're doing it. You're doing it, Dharana, right? It is happening. And it has always been that power that we can see as God. The eventual surrender forms a union where you see all there was God. There was no you. It's not like you got to God. You disappear, and God is all that remains. So it is happening. To surrender to that is to give it full permission to move within you, and even that you are being brought to. As Rumi put it, he said, "The power that brought me here must bring me home." You are brought here by pure grace, by the pure, utter benevolence of the self. It is the self breaking down the illusions for the self, and it is the self that will realize the self, that will reveal the self to itself. So So yes, it is automatic, and it's happening, and that's the only thing that's ever been happening. That is the infinite theme playing throughout every experience in every life, but you only need to be concerned about one, and that's you. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you, Anna. Hi from Lake Constance. Hey, Henrik. So good to Hendrik. Good to see you. Ah, Coco, in Australia. Oh my God, yeah, Australia. You're even weirder with it, because we had the time change here in the U.S. Everybody got it. If you're on my mailing list, I notified everybody. Mark says, yeah, life-changing stuff, GP, not just philosophy. Eventually, yes, it isn't philosophy. It is direct insight. Hey, Tatiana's here. La Luna, I get another little heart gift from La Luna, sweet Luna. Yay. Let's see here. Oh, we're at 2 hours. Oh my goodness. How am I doing on questions? I think I can get through them here. Let's see. Excellent description of self and dimensions. Thank you. You're very welcome. Let's see. Great Satsang. Thank you, says Mary. You're welcome. Robert Dosa says, yes, I agree. Thank you, Robert. So if the I am is the first, then what makes us forget the I am state? And why did we forget in the first place? Okay, let me see if you can grab this one, Robert. This is something my teacher Muji said. He said, I am. Before the idea I could forget, or the idea I needed to remember, was believed. If you believe I can forget, the power of the self will create in the dream the image of someone who forgot, and it is being perceived by the one who can never forget anything. Remember, it is not a personal sense of I am. That is the person having this experience. It is the universal sense of I am in which all experience appears. You never forgot. There's an image in the mind of someone who forgot. And they're acting out and having an experience of remembering or awakening. It's all happening on the screen. You never forgot. I'll leave it at that. Chew on that. I think you can. Robert says, thanks for the explanation. You're welcome. Sounds like positive nihilism. That is exactly what Buddha was accused of. Nihilism says, I don't exist. All there is conditioning. There is no self at all. Science, materiality are all nihilistic. Right? There is no self. A consciousness is a little functioning of a piece of the brain in here. And therefore, when it goes, you go. You have no existence outside of the constructions, the evolutionary construction of material forms. And the consciousness is an artifact, an emergent property of this conditions of matter. And when the matter falls away, you will cease to exist. That is nihilism. Right? What I'm saying is consciousness is all that exists. It will always exist. It is what is conscious of everything else. It is not dependent upon material conditions. Therefore, it has no beginning and no end. It is the exact opposite of nihilism. Everything else is nihilistic. Every other theory is nihilistic. This is the only one that isn't. I'm just denying that the conditioning of the nervous system is a self. I'm also denying that you are that conditioning. If you are, then yes, you're done for. Death means it's over. Period. Oblivion. You won't even know it happened because you won't be there to know that it ended. It'll just be gone. Okay? But you're not. You are not your conditioning. That is what is being experienced on the screen of consciousness. You are the consciousness that was never born and will never die. It is the infinite self. So, that takes care of that. Thank you, says Anuja. You're welcome. Anuja says, GP what? Is there more to that? I guess not. Terilius, Namaste G. Namaste G. How can we accept rebirth as a belief? Can it be proved in this lifetime? You don't need to accept it. It doesn't really matter. When it comes to self-realization or just getting on as a human being, it's the only thing you have to concern yourself is with right now. I didn't take on the beliefs of reincarnation, all that, and other lifetimes and stuff as a philosophy. It just kind of appeared in the various experience that I could see. I could see it. I could see examples of it. I could also see how energy patterns repeat, and that there's more to you and to me than just this life, this form, this body that has its own kind of transient. From the point of view, can a rebirth be proved in a lifetime? When you talk, if the criteria of proof is what we'd have to call objective evidence, then the answer is no, it can't be. Existence prior to birth can't be. And that's why, if that's all you accept, then you accept I didn't exist before I was born, I will not exist after I die. If you're looking for objective, that is classical analysis, scientific evidence, you will never be able to find any. But the thing is, it's not important. It doesn't matter whether this all spontaneously appeared and you're even imagining past lives, that they're all part of the dream, which in fact they are. Or there was this long stream. It doesn't really matter. Where are you right now? Who are you right now? The who you are is outside of all of that, and that's what I forever try to bring people's attention to. Not the various forms that appeared, even the various forms you've identified with, but the you, right? If there were rebirths in past lives, great. You were conscious of them at that point. You were totally identified with that life, which you've now completely forgotten, and now you're totally identified with this one. The one that is identifying with this one, and the one identified with that one, and the one before that, and the one before that, and the one before that, what's that? What's that one? Right? The one that's been aware every single lifetime. That one's obviously still here right now. Whatever that one is, that's you. And you don't need to know those past lives or even anything about past lives to get to that one. So that's my short answer for that. Thank you for your satsang, says Ava. Your ceaseless guiding from untruth to truth, darkness to light. Love you and your teaching, my great master. Bless your heart, Ava. Lydia. Lovely Lydia. So good to see you. So good to see you. John. Oops, hour change caught me out. Catch on playback. John. I sent an email. You can't blame me. Bo. Hello, Bo. Greetings from British Columbia. At this stage of our lives, how lucky are we, part of this self-inquiry? Thank you, GP, for your sensitivity, patience, and continue pointing. Yeah, we're all very fortunate to have encountered the Dharma. What can I say? Save me from myself. Yeah. Amen, Bo. Penny, heartfelt thanks to you, Sifu, yet another great satsang, especially exploring who am I. Oh, let's see. David and Elaine, heartfelt thanks, appreciation, GP, for putting the F into ineffable. Beautiful and clear descriptions, the truth of being. Wonderful. Thank you, guys. Thank you, G. Everything we do is a distraction from going in deeper. Essentially, this is all that really matters. You'll arrive at seeing that. You can't force that, by the way. Nothing else matters. You just can't force yourself into monkhood, right? It really is a matter of growth. You're growing into, this is all that matters. When you find that all lesser desires are interesting, and sometimes, fun. I mean, you can't live without the desire, right? I mean, you desire to take care of your children, to do stuff. I mean, it's all this is all part of it. But they all, you find that the more this desire takes over, it takes care of the rest of them. Nothing gets undone. Nobody becomes irresponsible. No, nobody becomes a derelict. Right? Everything gets done in such a different way. It's as if the entire universe converges to help bring you back to that. Klesu, do you live in pure awareness all the time? I am pure awareness. That is who I am. So I can't not live in it or of it. It's not there's an I living in it. Do I live in a state of just enraptured bliss all the time? Absolutely not. I'm calm most of the time. I'm content most of the time. I get emotional stuff happening. I have circumstances that piss me off, right? But I am the awareness. Otherwise, I couldn't have the experience of that. I couldn't experience my nervous system getting pissed off. But rarely does the sense of identity grab me and say, and I think I am that, right? That has grown beautifully less. Right? It still can happen, and I never rule it out. Because, the moment you say, oh, I got this down, is the moment the next trick is going to show up. So you just kind of, you are pure awareness right now. Pure awareness right now. That's what you are. The rest is a belief about you. So you never go in and out of awareness. Beliefs just appear and disappear in awareness. And this is the transition that gets made. I'll just leave it at that. It's the pointing back to the self-evident fact that nothing can happen unless you're aware of it, right? Which means you are always that awareness. Awareness is always present. It can never be absent, because if it was absent, you'd be absent, and you're never absent. You are that. So then there is this sense of somebody going in and out of it, but that's just an appearance on the screen. It's not what's actually happening. The more you see that, the more you will find yourself consciously experiencing be abiding in the self, abiding in pure awareness. And then you'll even know at those times when it appears as you're not, that you are. There's just this knowingness that's underneath all that. So thank you for that, Klesa. Robert Joseph, wow, powerful explanation. Thank you. You're welcome. Yes, love Muji, as do I. Susan. Oh, what happened? Oh, I never forgot the I am. And what is playing on the screen of life is I forgot. And I forgot is the illusion? Thank you. Yes. How can you forget? Right? Something is there to say, I forgot. Which means it always knew. It was aware of that, aware of the forgetting, aware of the remembering. That doesn't have to remember itself, does it? Oh, it'd be terrible if God could forget, right? All of creation stops. Everything ceases to exist and oh yeah, now I remember it. Boom, creation is back. Awareness is only ever awareness. Anna, thank you for responding to my question. You're very welcome. Lydia, yeah, who we are right now matters most. Thanks for that. Yes. Oh, thank God we don't have to figure all this stuff out, right? All you have to deal with, folks, is what is here right in this moment. If you can be fully present with what is here right now in this moment, the doorway to heaven will open. Not the stairway, You don't have to walk. It's just a door. Story's too long, but it's a great song. Tatiana, somebody said to Dalai Lama, it's petty. It's petty. You don't have children. You'd be a wonderful father. Dalai Lama replied, I am very impulsive. I'd make a horrible father. I love that guy. It's so true. I'm very impulsive. Wow. Clay Sue, when did you feel the shift to being more aware than anything else? Was it slow transition? Was there a threshold point? Did visiting Muji make a difference? Wow. It has been sudden realizations, which then sank into periods of integration and a deepening. Right? I didn't have one of those things where it's like the angels sang and it was over. They sang many, many times, many choruses. They had to repeat a lot of verses for me. And I just could witness the entire process of a very disturbed kid, a very dysfunctional nervous system, being brought into a state of being functional, opening up. So I kind of witnessed the whole process. I was very identified with it while it was going on, so I didn't realize how much of the witnessing was going on. I can see it now. But it would be punctuated by these incredibly insights going all the way back to when I was a child that would then integrate and sink in every time more deeply in, until the point where it was just like there just wasn't really much darkness. Right? There was just this kind of sense of an original innocence, a purity, a clear seeing of the distinction between the conditioning of the nervous system and the original innocence of the self, and a wisdom that came from recognizing not being anyone in particular, that I wasn't anyone, and that really was Zen that finally broke that last straw for me, or whatever you call it. Where there was no more searching for truth. There was, just the truth was simply manifesting itself constantly. I was that. I was nobody in particular. So I was just kind of moving, right? Yet there was nothing moving. It's very difficult to explain. And these things just kind of then permeate everything you do. They just kind of seep in. So it wasn't the Ramana Maharshi experience for me, right? It has been an ongoing deepening, one which I do not claim the ultimate authority or the ultimate achievement, and I may never. This is just the way it's unfolded for me, and I found that in this, the wisdom speaks. I don't get in the way. There's very little I to get in the way. There's very much a sense of presence, and an awareness that that presence is the only presence. There's still a sense of GP here, right? And it's in the body, right? A sense of kind of a personhood or an identity, but I see it as just a pattern of energy in the body, old habits and that sort of thing, and not as myself. So I hope that answers your question. Let's see. Did visiting Muji make a difference? Yes, it opened my eyes to just a whole different dimension that I hadn't seen before, and it exposed to me some very subtle egotism and arrogance that I didn't realize was there. I mean, even as after I'd had this transition and I could speak like this, like the wisdom was just coming unrestricted. There were these pockets in there that I was not aware of. And on one hand, he took me to heaven. On the other hand, he took me to hell. And I'm grateful for both. Marty, thank you, GP. Really needed these great questions and answers today. So welcome, Marty. Susan, yes, yay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I will keep repeating to myself. Remember. Beautiful. Terelius, love that name. To remain in the present, what's the difference between being in future and thinking ideas about the future that we need to plan? We just recognize that the thoughts about the future are happening in the present, and you can't, and that you can't leave the present. Go ahead, try. I'd say I'd wait, but that would be putting it in the future. You can't leave the present moment. What it simply means is an undue obsession with the future, to the point where this moment is nothing but a stepping stone to the future. Of course, you got to make plans, right? I'm planning what I'm going to do next week. I'm planning the retreat I'm doing at the end of the month, a class I'm doing in April. I'm planning meetings with people that I have to meet with. Of course. But they're all going to happen in the now. You're always in the now. The planning takes place in the now. And the now is the only time it could ever happen. It's the only time the planning can take place. So if now becomes the sum total of experience, it's no longer a stepping stone to the future, which makes now unacceptable as it is, which introduces suffering into this whole mix. And you see that the entire future is not, that the now is not this point in time and then the future something else, that the future takes place in the now. The planning, everything is right here and right now. The past we're thinking about is right now. The future you're planning is right now. And so you're never ever leaving it. I'm speeding my answers up a little bit because it's getting later. So thank you so much, GP. You're welcome. Thank you for sharing what's important in life. You're very welcome. Plan. Thank you. Another amazing satsang. Thanks. Do you feel the world is changing drastically now? Oh God, is it ever? I think that's kind of self-evident, don't you, Klesu? But the question is, what's it changing from and what's it changing to? Oh my God. It's waking up. That's what's happening. It's running out of moves. Just like personally we have experiences that transform us, that force us into growing spiritually. That's what's happening in the world. So don't be afraid of it. Don't be concerned for the outcome. We don't know exactly what the outcome is going to look like, but I know that it is going to be marvelous beyond our imagination. So thank you all. I love you all. I will see you all next week. And please get on my mailing list. Just go to gpwalsh.com, register for my book, my free ebook called Angels in the Basement. And I'll let you know about the upcoming retreat, the release of my of Just Allow It Edition 3, and the upcoming class I'm going to have called Your 4 Amazing Powers of Creation. Until then, all my lovelies, namaste.